Hello, listeners, and Sam and Dan, who are joining me, but you can't see them, but they are here, if you guys would like to say hello.
Wham or woos.
We're not doing that. We established it was far too confusing for a bit. You guys are aware of the Justice League, right? But we're also know that the Flash can reset time. He can try things again, and it sometimes creates a multiverse, a what if you will. So today, we're going to talk about some pretty big news going on with Warner Brothers for real in our universe. But first, I want to dip our toes into the universe that almost was, the actors that were set to play the characters that we know. And I have some quotes from them. I have the list of some of them, and I have, even a little bit of a video here of one of them auditioning for the role that they ultimately did not get, obviously.
Will that be plugged into the
podcast I'm going to put it into it.
Oh.
I'm fancy. But yeah, so right off the bat, let's start off with one that I think might be pretty well known, Superman. Superman is played by Henry Cavill, as we know, and will potentially be played by other people because Warner Brothers sucks. Also played by Tyler, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, on the CW, who is phenomenal as well. But I think it's pretty common knowledge at this point, but if you don't know, Joe Manganiello was Zack Snyder's first choice. Him and his wife both were watching True Blood, and they're like, this guy is a heck of a werewolf and or vampire. I haven't seen the show, but I know he's one of the two. I think a werewolf, but who knows?
We're going to find out he's like a leprechaun or something.
That'd be hilarious. Yeah, and so they wanted him for the role, but ultimately he was locked into a contract which wouldn't allow him to go be in a feature-length movie, and the way that he puts it is he can't really be mad because it got him in the room with Zack Snyder, who then gave him the role of Deathstroke, and that he loves that character a lot now too. And he was also on, at the time, the most watched TV show in America. So he wasn't exactly like suffering. He didn't miss out and disappear into squalor. He has since been in a lot of stuff. He's still in a lot of stuff. And he's kind of gone on and talked about how having Deathstroke taken from him and given to him and taken away and all those, we've covered it before, both on the website and in video form, that it was really hard for him to not be sure when the future of this character was going to be picked up. Imagine Superman having to deal with that, being Superman and having that taken away. So what do you guys think of the Joe Manganiello Superman for Man of Steel?
I would have been intrigued to see what Zack Snyder did with Joe Manganiello's Superman, because I think initially I would say, what? No, he doesn't seem like he can play off the nice guy bit, but seeing what Zack's done thus far, I think it could have been really interesting. That means we would have gotten Superman v Spider-Man before we got Batman v Superman, if you look at Tobey Maguire, because Joe Manganiello's was Flash Thompson in the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. I wouldn't want to fight me neither, and use laser vision. That would have been, oh my gosh, the memes would have been amazing.
They would have been. In fact, and when talking about it, Joe said that he actually couldn't even bring himself to watch Man of Steel because it hurt too much, knowing that he basically had the role. He had a 90-minute conversation with, it was him and his wife talking to Zack and his wife Deborah about the character, and ultimately he just couldn't do it. Other actors considered for the role also were like Matt Bomer, he almost got the role, and Brandon Routh almost came back again, and ultimately Henry Cavill got it. But in this Elseworld that we're visiting, Joe Manganiello is Superman in this mirror universe. So you were saying,
it's weird to think that Zack Snyder, when you think of those movies, you think of 300, Guardians of the Galaxy, or Watchmen, and you think, whoa, what kind of person makes that? It's like, oh, Zack and Deborah, they made it.
Yeah,
it's very strange.
It is a little odd,
especially when you look at him. He looks like a type of guy you'd see at like a CVS looking for like cold medicine. He's always wearing like the white T-shirt.
He looks like a slightly tougher Mark Ruffalo. I swear to God, Miko. I swear to God.
Miko hunted down his squeaky toy just for this occasion.
You monster. Anyway, moving forward to I think the second most commonly known actor or actress who's almost a Justice Leaguer, Wonder Woman. We all know Gal Gadot in the role. Yeah. She's fantastic. She was originally supposed to play Feora, but she was pregnant, so she couldn't. The actress who played Feora was supposed to be Wonder Woman.
What? Weird.
I don't remember how to pronounce her name. Let me look it up.
That's weird. To the uninitiated or the basic normal
It's
people.
Antje Trau.
Feora was the lady Kryptonian in Man of Steel, who was working with Zod. That's Feora. We only know because we've had a whole bunch of conversations about what she would be doing in the Phantom Zone and
Born
all that.
in East Germany, now Saxony. It's Antjetraue. The Germans, German is not a love language.
It looks like someone took a newspaper and tried to kill a fly that was on a keyboard, and they got it first try.
She's not the only one who came that close. There was one other person who came close enough that they were like, "We want you," but a last minute thing is keeping it. And this is a very
Amy Schumer,
very commonly fan casted person, Jamie Alexander, who plays Lady Sif.
Yeah.
But her MCU contract forbade her from basically playing for the other team. She was locked up in it, so she couldn't do it.
She'd have been great for it.
She looks exactly like the animated series version of Wonder Woman. So,
basically plays her as Sif.
Yeah, and she's not exactly being utilized over there.
Yeah, they killed off her character in like the second movie.
She didn't get killed off. She just didn't show up in the third one because she was busy filming her show Blind Spot?
Yeah, Blind Spot.
I just remember her naked in a bag covered in tattoos. That was the trailer. I'm not a weirdo. That's not a fetish.
I've
it's
seen a
trailer.
couple episodes of it, and it's not bad. It's a lot grittier than you would think because it markets itself a lot like White Collar, where it's sort of like in terms of color spectrum and tone, very different tone.
I'd put it closer to Blacklist and how it marketed.
I'd put it closer to Hannibal.
No, I mean how it marketed itself.
But like,
those are the two who were sort of there. So whenever it comes to making I have like a work in progress image for this.
I love
episode.
Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman, but a part of me wants to see the Jamie Alexander one.
Well, just in this other universe that we're seeing through this ripple in time and space, she's there next to Joe Mangos, who, in doing research for this to make the image, I saw many images of him shirtless, and I will never be okay with my own body image ever again.
Well, firstly, I feel we need to get a disclaimer. I know she pronounces it Gadot, not Godot.
But the rest of the world says Godot. When you know, you Godot.
But that's her name.
She doesn't know how to pronounce her name. It's fine. So do we want to move to the Flash next? I kind of want to save. Let's go to Aquaman and then Flash, and we'll finish up with Batman.
Fine, I guess. Well,
I think that'll work well.
Who's Cyborg?
Cyborg was not ever going to be in another treatment of the Justice League. That was a fully Zack Snyder thing, and he immediately knew who he wanted. He didn't consider anyone else publicly listed. Because that's a New 52 era thing, and there weren't a whole lot of Justice League movies in production during the New 52 era. The New 52 launched around the same time as Ryan Reynolds' Green Lantern movie. And so that very quickly killed the idea of a more comic fun thing, which is why they were like, hey, Nolan, Dark Knight, you want to write a Superman? He's like, yeah, I don't want to direct it. I have a friend who can, though. I really liked his Watchmen. And that's how we got... I think when Nolan writes and Snyder directs, you get a beautiful movie.
Mm.
So,
yeah.
Man of Steel is my favorite superhero movie ever. So, that's my bias. These are actors. One of them you'll know, one of them you won't. Aquaman was another character who wasn't widely... Well, first let me say, are you aware of the movie Justice League Mortal? That never happened? By the Mad Max and Babe director?
Vaguely.
Armie Hammer was going to be Batman in that one. The now cannibal Armie Hammer. He could have been a cannibal back then. We don't know when it started. Anyway, just because Immortan Joe from Mad Max Fury Road was who he had cast as Martian Manhunter. And an Australian actor whose accent was so intense that in the original Mad Max, when he plays Tokata Joe, he had to be redubbed by an American actor because he was you couldn't understand him for Americans anyway. It was like the boss from
Anchorman 2?
Anchorman 2.
Where he has a really thick
That guy
Australian
plays Kano
accent.
in Mortal Kombat, by the way. The boss from that.
I mean, that works.
He's the funniest guy from the little bit I've seen.
Yeah, which I do love the fact it's like, what language do you speak? I thought they spoke English down there.
Anyway, but Aquaman. There were only really two actors that ever came close to getting a movie, and one of them was more of a TV movie that would turn into a TV show. So which do you want first, the TV to TV movie?
TV to TV thing.
Justin Hartley of Green Arrow from Smallville fame was originally Aquaman before he was Green Lantern or Green Arrow for Smallville. He was Aquaman. Caravan of Garbage covered this as an unaired pilot. He was going to play Aquaman, and the pilot didn't really get picked up, but later on they liked him so much they gave him the role of Green Arrow, which this isn't the only time this is going to come up, of an actor auditioning for a role, something not working out, and them ending up in a different DC property in this episode.
I mean,
so that's going to come up again.
We already dealt with that with Deathstroke, freaking Joe Mango's.
But that's not the only one. And so he was going to play him, and there were rumors of trying to get a TV movie to then, and then the TV show, obviously, and that was in the height of Smallville. But he became Green Arrow. Now he's on a show about us, or this is us, or those are us, or we are them. Who knows? The other guy, I don't know if you've even seen him in anything. Santiago Cabrera, who plays the pilot in Star Trek Picard, is how I know him.
Didn't see that show.
I like it.
I delayed watch it, and then you were like, I don't like how everyone's mean to Picard.
Everyone is mean to Picard, and I don't like that, but I like Picard, so I'll watch anything that he's in.
Also,
That's my bias.
I'm not a huge fan of Star Trek when they're like not dealing with some serious crap.
I'm really excited for Star Trek Enterprise. Or not Enterprise. Whatever the one is, Boldly Go, or whatever they're going to call it, that has Anson Mount's Captain Pike, and it's the 5-year journey before Kirk takes over. And they've got all the cast from that, because he was the shining star of Discovery Season 2.
Yeah.
He also was considered for the role of Batman. But we're not to Batman yet. We're going to The Flash. And
were they going to get the Maze Runner
Did we
guy?
cover the other Aquaman?
It was Picard and Justin Hartley.
Okay.
I like both of those actors, by the way. But, so The Flash, I would get flack if I didn't bring up the fact that originally Ryan Reynolds was going to play The Flash, but he was going to be Wally West, so I can't really talk about that right now. Instead, the most recent one was and this ties back into Justice League Mortal, which was during the Nolan Dark Knight era. They were going to make another movie. There was going to be Justice League. It was going to be set in another universe. Warner Brothers was worried it would be too confusing for fans as to whether or not these shows connected, even though the MCU wasn't super... It hadn't blown up in the way that it has now. It was an era where we were still in Phase 1, and we had not yet gotten the Avengers, I believe, by this point. No, we had not. Because this was around 2010, and then things sputtered out from there. But Adam Brody, who plays... I forget the name. Shazam's best friend who gets powers in Shazam. He gets the blue suit.
Oh. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
The Shazammed version, that's Adam Brody. He does look like...
Wait, wasn't he in the OC?
Yes, he's in the OC as well as the guy that Gordon lives with. That's not his name, but the guy who plays Jim Gordon in Gotham.
The biological son in the OC. We're crossing a whole lot of streams.
There's a lot... Yeah, I know. We're not... Proper nouns are confusing. We're just connecting what we can here. We're like a broken IMDb page. But he was set to be the Flash in Justice League Mortal, and then they basically moved where they were shooting the film to 3 different locations. Basically, like, we won't get any tax cuts here, we won't get these things here, so we need to move production, and it costs so much to move it. And Warner Brothers wasn't super confident in it, so they just axed the entire thing, even though they had costumes and the script, and Jay Baruchel was going to play the bad guy in that, which would have been bizarre, and would have opened with the funeral scene. And you see all these superheroes in black versions of their superhero suits, which is very cartoony, and I kind of dig that. And you would see all their superhero emblems. You're like, so who in the Justice League dies? And then you find out that Barry Allen died and Wally West is the new Flash. I feel like it's fine to spoil a movie that didn't come out 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But from that point, he was the last actor attached to play the Flash, because they were like, well, let's just make a Flash solo movie then. Let's do this, let's do that, all the way up into the point of Green Lantern, at which point they were like, look, it's clearly not going to work out. This whole comic booky version isn't working. Let's stick to Nolanisms. That's our wheelhouse. We know that works. So that's when that sort of finally the final nail in the coffin there. I still think you could take a lot of those ideas and just put Dylan O'Brien, who looks like a younger version of Adam Brody and sounds and acts just like him, Maze Runner.
Yeah.
Could just be Wally West. He's been who I've cast as Wally West in my mind, basically since I first heard of the actor in general. But yeah, and I feel like it's okay to say that he not only is he the last actor attached to the project, but he also was attached as recently as Ryan Reynolds was, and Ryan Reynolds was originally going to be brought back in the Snyder Cut as Hal Jordan. So
Whoa.
What?
Ryan Reynolds is going to reprise that monstrosity in the Snyder Cut.
Zach had written an option for him to come back because he's like, yeah, he's Green Lantern, so if you want Hal Jordan, that's the Hal Jordan you go with. But instead, he changed it to Jon Stewart, and then the studio said you can't have Jon Stewart, so then he made it Martian Manhunter, who he already had intended to bring in Justice League in one way, shape, or form from the beginning. Did you not know that?
Huh.
Just imagine Zack Snyder's Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern.
The idea that he would, out of all the things he could say, oh, this is going to be part, like, we're talking about Christian Bale's Batman, we're talking about any of the other Supermen who were they were kind of hokey movies, but, you know, they were movies, the entire CW, and he goes to what is possibly the diaper genie in the dumpster of DC movies.
Taika Waititi's in Green Lantern. And Tamora Morrison. I like all three of those people. It's a bad movie, though. I'm not trying to fight you on that. I just give it.
It is.
The 3D on it was. Let me put it this way: when I saw that and Transformers: Dark of the Moon, I had more fun in Green Lantern than Transformers, though. Except for the part where Shia LaBeouf beats the guy from Grey's Anatomy's head in with a metal rod, which was oddly violent. I kind of dug that.
Okay, saying that, like, man, getting that flu shot was, like, a lot less painful than getting kicked in the nuts. Like, not...
I'm not saying it's a good movie. I was just saying, comparatively, there are worse films that came out at the same time. Anyway, we're straying.
I feel like we could have had an entire podcast about, oh, by the way, Ryan Reynolds' Green Lantern almost had a second life.
Anyway, I have two more people who are here. I actually had...
We couldn't get Dredd, too, but
at least bring him back with a mullet. You know, I think we deserve some hero to come back with a mullet.
But in this alternate universe, Joe Mangos would be the one. I'm kidding. In this version, Warner Brothers is competent. So it's the Brothers Warner over there instead of Warner Brothers. BW is handling the League of Justice incredibly well in this alternate universe. Mm-hmm. So now we get to Zack Snyder's original Batman picks. And this is where things get a little interesting. It's been... By the way, before we dive into this, I just want to point out that it was considered to have Christian Bale play Alfred for the next Batman. But people thought that would be too confusing.
Yeah, and why?
Because he's English.
Yeah, but isn't he supposed to be old?
Have you ever heard of acting?
Have you ever heard of casting actual old people to play old people?
I'm not saying it's a good idea. I'm just saying it was considered. Anyway, that wasn't one that Zack Snyder had. That was just one the studio's like, what if we kept Christian Bale around?
I feel like Zack Snyder walks that line between, yeah, it's a great movie, too. You see, you didn't explain that. I feel like Zack Snyder's movies are like our podcast, where it's like a lot of it takes place inside his head and requires context.
Yeah, that's fair. Maybe that's why I like his movies. Are you saying I'm like the Zack Snyder of podcasting?
Not in a good way, in the fact that you wear very strange t-shirts and I can't tell if you're homeless or super rich.
I'll take it. Anyway, but Batman. Pretty famously, there were two big names that made it. Well, three big names, really, that made it to the end. But the two were the runners-up, and then the other one is big deal that I didn't even know about until recently.
Granted, it was one actor who had very big first, middle, and last names.
So John Hamm was originally in the running to play it. And back whenever they were shooting Watchmen, Zack Snyder told Jeffrey Dean Morgan, I'd love to make a Batman movie with you. And he was like, yeah, okay. And if I can't have Jeffrey Dean Morgan, I want John Hamm. And I think it never really got much beyond like, hey, John, would you like to be Batman? And he was like, I don't know. An actor who met with Zack and was basically hard locked into the role before they had creative differences is Josh Brolin. Prior to being cast as Thanos.
Or Cable.
Or, yes, also Cable as well. Who he'd only been Jonah Hex at this point. In the critically acclaimed Megan Fox movie. But
I think you mean critically ashamed.
Nice.
Oh, that's a nice spike on the audio.
They both were like, he was like, I want to be Batman. This sounds awesome. He's like, yeah, you're the perfect shape and design, which is gratifying for me because I've said for a long time that he is the only other guy I could see playing Batfleck because I feel like he has the same voice and the tone. He would be a little short, but I don't care. I think he just fits that sort of lifted from Frank Miller's work but can go in different places. But inevitably they had a clashing of agreement on how Batman should be portrayed. So it fell apart and they went their separate ways. But the role I really want to say, and it is another DC actor who was going to play Batman, was auditioned, and I'm going to show you the audition clip. Sam, take a guess.
Oh, let's see.
George Clooney.
If anyone would bring George Clooney back in a gritty post-apocalypse, it would be Zack Snyder.
Once again, his movies walk the line between really bad and really good. Let's see, it was another DC actor. I'm going to say his casting for Batman, you're saying?
Yes, and this is around the time of pre-Batman vs. Superman, so post...
Okay.
So in this alternate universe, this is the guy who gets it. Joe Mangas has already played Superman to critical acclaim. Brothers Warner fully backs him and Christopher Nolan. Batman is about to be announced at the new Comic-Con. Who walks out on stage?
I'm going to say... Oh, man. This is difficult. I'm going to say... what's his name? Aquaman. Jason Momoa.
Did you see the paper?
What?
Jason Momoa is in fact Batman.
What?
Let me show you his audition.
Oh, no.
He actually, so for the record, this isn't, it's just a 13-second clip of it. And it's not a great performance because when he got brought on board, he was like, there's no way they're going to let a brown man play like Aquaman. He's like, I don't care how white I can look. They're never going to let me play it.
You mean Batman? You said Aquaman.
Well, let's find out.
Oh, no. That hair.
Yeah, short haircut. He was going to shave his face again.
Hey,
or
man,
just
I'd
have
watch
stubble.
Jason Momoa be Batman.
Exactly. Wait.
Jason's audition to be Batman.
Alfred, enough. The police weren't getting it done.
Oh.
And that was him throwing it, by the way. And I'm going to read you a quote about his version of what he wanted to do to Batman, because honestly, it's interesting because the comics are now doing that. So here's what he had to say on it.
It was a big casting call, so I knew a lot of people were going to be doing it, and I just felt like it was a booby trap, and I didn't want to do it. He says that his agent goaded him to go to the Batman vs. Superman audition. He said, I just pretended that Batman got killed in that alley, and I picked it up, and I tried to play him like I was just down and out, poor, over it, just done wrong, and he wasn't afraid to punch even good people in the face, but he's flawed. Like the kind of person who would jump off of a cliff and figure out on the way down what we're going to do. That kind of guy. I got called again probably 2-3 weeks later by Zach, and he says, I want you to play Aquaman. And against typecasting, when he told me his vision, what he wanted me to do with the tattoos, someone who comes from being half white, half Polynesian, it made sense.
So he was so good in trying to throw an audition for Batman, he got cast as Aquaman. And let me see if I still have the image pulled up here. I had a pretty gnarly image of him in action movie pose. Let me just resize this Batman. Discuss it. What's your feelings on this?
I mean, I would have watched it. I would have liked Jason Momoa's Batman, I think.
I'm a big Jason Momoa fan, so I'm already in. But yeah, this is sort of the design. This is sort of the look he was going to have as Bruce Wayne, but a little bit more clean-shaven, obviously.
That just looks like Zack Snyder.
Oh my god.
Like,
So I have this idea for a guy, he looks just like me. I want him to play all the characters. But yeah, so in this alternate universe, let me just run down. We have Jason Momoa as Batman. Joe Manganiello as Superman. Oh, I almost forgot to add, Zoe Saldana of Pirates of the Caribbean, Guardians of the Galaxy, Avatar fame was going to be Lois Lane.
Oh.
Interesting.
She, I think, that's a really good casting
She
personality.
definitely could have that sort of,
She's
like,
got the spice.
Yeah.
that moving, like, towards the story and, you know, devil may care.
A driven, like a really driven, passionate, like professional. I think that's an incredible casting. So in this universe, Batman is Jason Momoa. Superman is played by Joe Manganiello. It was Zoe Saldana as his Lois Lane. The Flash is Adam Brody. Wonder Woman is played by either Jamie Alexander or I don't know which one do you want to say got the role in this one, because Jamie and her both literally had the role on lock. So it's a real split. Do you want to say Gal Gadot wasn't pregnant or that it was late?
Let's go with Jamie just because we can say it.
Okay, Jamie Alexander is Wonder Woman. Santiago Cabrera is Aquaman and or Justin Hartley, depending on your preferred there. Oh, and the villain of Lex Luthor. I don't remember if you remember this, but back in the day, there was rumors that Nightwing was going to be in Batman vs. Superman. And an actor had auditioned, and they're like, he's kind of ugly. to play Nightwing. He wasn't auditioning for Nightwing. He was auditioning for Lex Luthor. Adam Driver, Kylo Ren himself, was going to play Lex Luthor in Batman vs. Superman. That's a really fucking good combination of what we actually got in the comics. That's a perfect hybridization.
That would have been amazing.
It's so good.
I feel like if we had gotten the performance we did out of someone with Adam Driver's face, the internet would have torn it to pieces even faster.
But that's the thing. We would have gotten Adam Driver's performance. A former Marine who we saw perform.
Where you could sound like he was getting an order at a drive-thru, just like...
He has that booming voice.
Yeah,
he can draw on that anger.
He also knows how to sound angry and express emotion.
Yeah, he's a big dude. He's tall.
And
How tall do we think he is?
I don't know. I just know that he's
I'm going to say
big
he's
enough.
6'2".
I know he's a big enough guy that if he was angry, I would be...
6'2". Oh my god.
Hot dog.
Wow, this is your... What was the other one you got right?
Mark Hamill.
This is your Mark Hamill all over again. Wow.
Weirdly, I'm good at that.
Yeah, when I throw out hypotheticals and Jason Momoa, how did
when
you
you
get to
ask
that?
when you ask me facts, I was like, "What do you think the world did?" And I'm just like, "Well, let's see. This
You were in a
is
simulation of the hypotheticals.
this is something I could live with, but I wouldn't want initially. Like, I mean, I would need time to adjust. It's probably what happened."
Let me see if I have the image up. Okay, so this is sort of like the unfinished initial look of
It's very strange.
It's
Wait, is
bizarre.
that what Joe Magnolia looks
that's
like?
Joe
shaven?
Mangan. Yeah, it's shaved Joe Mangoes.
Holy.
You know how hard it is to find an image of him with a shaved face? You type in Joe Manganiello shaved, clean shaven, no beard, you just get images of him with beards. Unless I wanted Flash Thompson, it was very limited.
That looks like just comic Superman.
I know, and she looks like
Holy cow.
cartoon Wonder Woman, and he looks great as Batman there.
He does.
Also, finding beardless
Also-
Jason Momoa isn't super
Also,
easy.
giving Batman
With short
kind of
hair.
a tan does help differentiate Bruce Wayne and Clark Kent visually
Yeah.
when you're trying to show them
Also-
in a room together.
I think as long as you capture like I've said it before in other podcasts, like if Oscar Isaacs had been given the role of Bruce Wayne or Batman or even Superman, I think he's an actor who can capture those roles. So I don't care about if it looks like, oh well, maybe the comics I was reading were just printed differently. Maybe that's the color it was all along. If he has the same face and body and makes me feel like that hero is here, it doesn't matter if it's a little different. That's like the sort of the question of like all the redheads in comic books are being turned into black people for some reason. Like they're like, well, we need diversity. Gingers don't care. This isn't an Irish production, so let's just make it someone else.
It is very odd that it's the redheads
It's
that are
it's a
going.
very specific trait. It's very specific. And a lot of people are like, well, why are you mad? And I'm like, look, I've never cared about Jimmy Olsen, but some kid or adult weirdo or normal person does really like
Or
Jimmy
there was
Olsen.
like some ginger who did grow up reading comics.
Yeah, and it was like, I wish Superman was my pal. I wish I could be a Jimmy Olsen. And so
or
when you change
like
him,
he wished he was the Flash.
yeah, and so you're fundamentally changing these characters. So that's sort of the big thing is the change needs to be good enough that it validates potentially kind of not spitting on, but sort of saying what you remember isn't as important as what I want to do. What you're doing needs to be good enough to make that change fit.
Yeah, it reminds me of Stephen Moffat. And when he was asked about would you ever make the Doctor regenerate into a woman, which he since has, he said, it's not about could he, it's about is there a woman out there who's good enough to be able to take the role and make us tell new stories in that way.
I don't know I don't watch Doctor Who. I watched a little bit of Torchwood because I'm a big fan of, I forgot the name of the actor. I saw him in Arrow and I worked backwards through his work into Torchwood.
Yeah.
Big fan of him. Also Welsh, like us. So, hey, what's up? That's cool.
Yeah. But
a little bit better looking than us.
Something similar. I would say the only problem, because I haven't seen the female Doctor Who, I would say the issue is probably going to be that in one episode, people are going to be like, that's a woman, we shouldn't trust her.
John Barrowman, who is now a full-fledged Silver Fox.
But then she would say,
interesting.
see, I'm smart, and prove it, and they'll never address it in any other episodes and any other time periods.
I think, not to get too far off topic, but I do think that it's been fairly well documented that the writers of Sherlock and Doctor Who have cool premises that they then sort of, the longer you give them time, they sort of squander.
Yeah.
Like a more dramatic and equally low-budget version of the CW.
Yeah, I'd say if you want
Except
to...
for Superman and Lois, which has a very strong first season so far, and I'm hoping I don't just jinx that show.
I would say if you want a really good dissection of Doctor Who and Stephen Moffat, watch H. Bomber Guy's video on Sherlock, it's like a couple hours long, and he goes through his career and sort of shows the problem he has as a writer and how he kind of keeps doing this. It's only a matter of time until we get a James Bond show that he's going to screw up.
So originally I was going to tell you guys about the DC news that's happening, but this has already gone on to the full length of an episode, so I think I'm actually going to just do that in another episode that we'll record right now, but for other people to listen to it whenever we put it up. What do you think of this parallel universe? We're looking through the thin membrane that separates our universes.
I
Where
like
these
it.
castings
So wait,
happen.
this is an entirely new episode now.
No, I haven't changed it. I'm just saying we're looking over at Earth 15 or whatever, where Zack Snyder and Chris Nolan were
2.5.
not impeded.
I like it a lot.
I would watch the bejesus out of
what's
that.
the cinematic universe called? Because then we can just add
The
a half.
DCEU.
So they don't.
No, they don't. They didn't do the Earth 616 or whatever.
So the almost DCEU, the ADCEU.
Let's just call it-
Earth 1.5.
Let's just call it DCU, like it should have been the DC universe. It's
Whatever.
well, DCCU maybe, because DC cinematic. It bothers me when people say DC Comics is Detective
The
Comics.
BW verse, where
Yeah, the
Warner
BW
Brothers was
verse.
good.
Where the brothers Warner created a competent film studio that didn't alienate audiences and filmmakers by going behind their backs and then paying $200 million worth of hush money and then hiring petty, horrible people that don't know how to do their jobs, where they needed to buy out 2 years after they were bought to merge with another company, which will springboard into our next episode. Be sure to listen to that. And of course, also we have another episode where we're going to talk about supernatural things, where we touch back a little bit on some Army of the Dead stuff, but for the most part, all new like vampires, werewolves,
Inevitably,
monsters.
we will talk about the show Supernatural in that conversation.
Probably, yeah. Hopefully more iZombie as well. Anyway, thanks for listening. God, I would kill to watch Jason Momoa's Batman. Maybe in an animated movie.